Welcome to YouTubers Love Excel number 67. Hey, if you want to download this workbook and follow along, click on my YouTube channel, then click on my college website link, and you can download the workbook, YouTubers Love Excel 67 to 71. Hey, this YouTuber said, hey, I got a table of data, and I need to be able to pull records from the table from another sheet. So he wants to type in a last name here and have automatically all of the field elements show up for that record. For example, if he says name 8, he wants all this data. Now I'm going to show you two ways. We're going to use the VLOOKUP, and then we're going to use the DGET, a database function called DGET. But first, we have to name. We have to name and use data validation. The very first thing I want to do is name this first column here. So I'm going to click in the top cell and Control-Shift down arrow to highlight all the way down. Then I'm going to click in the name box, and I'm going to type name. Enter. Now I'm going to go over to this sheet, and for the VLOOKUP, I want data validation with a drop-down. So in this cell, I'm going to go to data, and then validation. In 2003, you have to go to the data menu and then data validation. The keyboard shortcut that works in all versions, Alt-DL, Alt-DL. I'm going to hit Tab, and then I'm going to type the letter L to get to list, because that's what we want, and then Tab. And I forget what my name is, so I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut F3. That gives me my paste name option, and then I'm going to double-click name. And then click OK. Now watch this. Now I have my list, so I can pick name 8. But watch this. I'm going to copy this. When you copy a cell, it takes formatting and content and data validation. I'm going to click over on this next YouTubers Love Excel 67.3. And when we do our DGET, we're going to need the same thing here. So I'm just going to Control V. No way. That's totally cool. So I can copy data validation. Now we're going to do VLOOKUP and then DGET. You got to remember, though, since we're going to use a name of a table, we got to go back to our data set. When you use VLOOKUP, you cannot include the field names in your table. When you use DGET, which is a database function, you have to have all your records and your field names. And as always, I have little notes here. And there's some little notes exactly about that. So let's highlight the entire table. The keyboard shortcut to highlight an entire table is Control asterisk, and that little asterisk is on the number pad. And now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to call this D name. Enter. And now I'm going to highlight this very first record. And to highlight all the way down, I'm going to hold Control and Shift and the down arrow. And then I'm going to name this, click up in the name box and name this V name. Now we can go do our cool little tricks. I'm going to click over on the 67.2, and let's do our formula for VLOOKUP. I'm going to highlight the whole range here. And in the light colored cell right here, I'm going to say equals VLOOKUP. What's the value I want to look up? Right here. But get this, when I copy over to each one of these cells across the columns, I need to lock it going across the column. So I'm going to hit F4, F4, F4. That locks it going across the column. Comma, and what's my table array? That's the name. That's the table it's looking up. It's going to take this value and look over there. But we need to say what table it is. Well, we've already named it. I'm going to hit my F3 key, and we named this one V name without the field name. So I'm going to click that, and then comma. Now wait a second. This table over here, if you remember, is set up in the same columns, A, B, C, D, E. Well, this is column 2, so for index number, we need a 2 here. When we get over to, that's for first name. When we get over to date, we need a 3. When I get over to hours, I need a 4. When I get over to wage, I need a 5. Well, there's a cool way to do this. What is column number B? This is column number 1. This is column number 2. So because our original table is set in A, B, C, D, we can just use the column function. The column function, just like that. Now, it just happens to be that it was B1. And when you don't type in a cell reference here like R4, let's see. M3, I think M is the 13th column, so that would deliver 13. If you don't put anything there and you just leave it argumentless, it'll tell you the column that you're currently located in. And B column is what we want, which is a 2. Remember, there's a trick. If you don't believe it, you can always highlight the part of it and hit your F9 key. That's the F9 key. It evaluates. You can see that it's a 2. Control Z to undo it because we want to have that column. Now, comma, since we're looking up words, we need false. So I'm going to type 0, close parentheses. That formula will work when I Control Enter. Sure enough, it got exactly what we want, except for it's got a date problem. So we need to, since dates are serial numbers, the number of days since January 1st, no, I'm sorry, December 31st, 1899. Remember, January 1st, 1900 is 1. January 2nd, 1900 is 2. This date right here, 39,665. Well, let's format and see what day it is. Control 1 is the keyboard shortcut for format cells. Number and then date. Oh, 8/5/2008. And then click OK. Now, we can test it and point to our drop down and go to name 11. Let's scroll up and say name 2. So that is a way to get data with data validation and VLOOKUP. Now, let's go see how to do it for DGET. I'm going to click over here. I'm going to highlight all the cells. And in the light color cell, very first one, I'm going to say equals DGET. And the database, oh, we need to tell this function what the database that includes the field name. So I'm going to hit my F3 key, which is paste name. I'm going to go to dname, because that's what we named the table with field names, comma, the field. Well, that's always going to be one cell above. And this function needs the field name, so it knows where to go and look, comma. And what's the criteria? Oh, last name, and that's the field name, and that's the particular variable from this column of data. Now, we need to lock this, so I'm going to hit F4, F4, F4. So when we go across this way, it'll remain locked. Now, remember, criteria with the database functions always requires a field name and the criteria below it. That's different than functions like sum, if, where you have criteria. All right, close parentheses and then Control Enter. Control Enter. Same thing here. I'm going to click there, Control 1. Go to date. It's 8/4/2008. Looks like it worked just perfectly. I'm going to click over here. Say person number 8, or last name 8, last name 13. So that's how to retrieve an entire record with data validation and DGET. And here's a data validation and VLOOKUP. All right, we'll see you next trick.